Here I am, back with another video that is already starting very professionally. And today I have prepared a bit of stuff to talk about for a change. I feel better than yesterday evening, and today, while showering, I got a new idea on how I could progress here, and I think I have to think about it, but generally speaking, I think I will just do a proper priority list that accurately reflects what my priorities are at the moment. It doesn't reflect what my priorities should be, I won't lie, but I think I will cut out everything that doesn't help me achieve my goals. And so basically what my priorities will be are: number one, to get up at 6 a.m. every morning. Number two, to chase excellence at work. Number three, to do my exercises every single day. And then number four, all the time that I have left after properly doing my exercises, I will then spend on the school project. So yeah, that's what the next steps forward are probably going to be. Now, what I wanted to talk about today was I wanted to shamelessly once again abuse these videos in order to manage my own mind. But this time I want to try to actually create a proper framework for basically all the relevant knowledge about life that I have, and try to explain it in a way so that potentially people can copy this framework, this way of thinking, in order to have a structure for which they can store new information and which helps them think in a way to achieve their goals. Okay. So, generally speaking though, I haven't properly thought out how I'm going to structure my knowledge. So as always, I'm just going to, holy shit. So as always, I'm just going to kind of try and make it up in the moment because that's working so incredibly fucking well. Anyways. So the key things or the key parts of the structure are two ideas. The first one is that the key part of the structure are: number one are your goals, which are kind of which I think of as at the top of everything. And kind of if you change your goal or if you change your goals, then what knowledge is relevant to you changes as well. Because for me, and I think pretty generally, the knowledge that is relevant to you, oh no, it's like generally speaking, knowledge is only relevant to you if it helps you achieve a certain. Knowledge is only relevant to you if it helps you achieve a goal. Okay, so we have generally your goals, and then kind of, I think of it as below that, you have different areas of your life where you can kind of assign knowledge to. So for example, if you learn something about health, that helps you in the area, well, it helps you in the area of your life that is health. If you learn something about how to manage your finances, that helps you in the area of your life that's finances. Now, what are the areas of my life that I currently think about? I'm not completely sure, to be honest, but I think there are definitely 3 areas, which are number 1, financials or financial, number 2, health, and number 3, social skills. And then this is where it already starts to get complicated. I think there's also kind of a support. So I think you can also think about different areas in your life. You can group them into 2 groups. The first one are like main areas, and the second one are supporting areas. What is the difference between main areas of your life and supporting areas of your life? I would argue that main areas of your life are different categories where you can have goals in, that you can have goals in at the same time, and parallel areas or parallel or supporting areas of life are areas of life that, 1, you tend not to really set proper goals in, and 2, that make all of your main areas of life better at the same time. And this system is not, it's not completely perfect, but it works okay. And this also brings in a principle, and I think you can think of principles as a supporting area of life. And one of the main principles is to keep things as simple as possible, which is why, well, as long as it works, or as long as I feel good about it, I try not to, well, make this system of knowledge more complicated than it really has to be. Okay, so what do I mean by main areas of life? Now, generally speaking, and when I say that main areas of life are areas of life that you set goals in. And remember that this system is really very personal to me. So basically, when I think about things, or when I think about ways where I want to change or properly really improve my life, then they always tend to fall into certain areas. Or basically, it's like, maybe a better way is not to think about it as goals that I set for life, but rather if I found a genie in a bottle and he told me that I could have, and he had a good day, and so he told me that I could have 6 wishes fulfilled. It's like, what would be the wishes that I would actually tell this genie? And I think this genie in a bottle example is a very good example, because it helps you to discern, or to properly discern between what are the actual outputs that I want, and what are the inputs that I want. Because in the past, I had like what I called a goal sheet where I wrote down all of my big life goals. And basically those life goals were, number one, I wanted to make a whole lot of money. Number two, I basically wanted to get good at speaking to girls. Number three, I wanted to run a bunch of marathons and ultra marathons. And number four, I wanted to write a bunch of books. Yeah, those were kind of the areas that I had. And then I also added that I wanted to get very good at studying, that I wanted to get very good at making, I also added that I wanted to get very good at studying skills, and I added that I wanted to get very good at making YouTube videos, and I added that I wanted to collect and act on a whole lot of knowledge. But the thing is that the last three goals, they were not really goals that I wanted to do only for themselves. They were really goals that I wanted to do because I realized that these are core areas of my life that I need to develop in order to achieve my real goals, which were the first four goals. So basically making a lot of money, getting good at speaking to girls, running marathons and ultra marathons, and writing cool fantasy books. I could get deeper into the exact structures of these goals, but one, I'm not following them anymore, which might be a mistake. This is also something I might want to talk about. And two, that's not the topic of the video. Okay, but what I wanted to say, that in the past, I kind of put goals that represented things that I really wanted to achieve in my life, so basically outputs, together with the core inputs that I think I need to do in order to achieve these goals. And with the genie example, it helps me to cut out or to discern what the goals are that I really want to achieve in my life, and what the goals are that I only set because I think that these are areas that I need to develop in order to achieve my real goals. Okay. Now, I'm just realizing that this, what's the proper name? What's the proper word? I'm just realizing that these differences between like main life areas and supporting life areas, they don't really work that well. But anyways, I also thought of one more difference between those two areas. So generally, to try and put everything together, main life areas are areas of life where I can have goals in parallel to each other. So for example, I can set a goal of making a lot of money, and at the same time I can set a goal, which is a financial goal obviously. At the same time I can set a goal of running a marathon, and at the same time I can set a goal of talking to, I don't know, 30 girls in a month. And I can do all of these goals parallel to each other. Is this really an important point to talk about? I don't think so. It's not really that relevant. Okay, so basically, generally, main areas of life are areas of life that have really two main components. Number one main component is that they are generally outputs, that if I could talk to a genie who would grant me some wishes, then the wishes that I would tell the genie would generally fall into one of these main life areas. And number two, those areas tend to contain goals that are very well measurable. So basically goals that you can quantify and therefore measure well. And then the supporting life areas tend to be life areas that help me get better in all of the main areas all at once, number one. And number two, that are very hard to quantify and that are really more like quality-based areas. Now, and really the main difference between the two types of life areas is really that main areas of life are easy to quantify, supporting areas of life are not very easy to quantify. Because I just thought about it and I realized that like main areas of life also make all of the other areas of my life better. So it's like if I start making more money, I think that also allows me to, I don't know, spend less time at work and or to generally have more time and to buy better food, which then improves my health. At the same time, when I improve my health and, for example, I can finally think more clearly because I have improved my health and because I'm sleeping properly and stuff, then that can also help me improve my financial goal or to get better at my financial goals. And obviously my health, when that, for example, improves my looks, then that can also help me improve my social skills. And obviously having better social skills can also help me get better at my financial goals or to move faster towards my financial goals. So really all of these areas are very strongly interconnected. Okay, so to repeat the entire system so far, there are two big groups, which is number one, my goals, and number two, different areas of life. Within different areas of life, there are two subgroups, which are like the main areas of life, which for me right now are is basically financial goals, health goals, and goals related to social skills. And then the second subgroup of areas of life are supporting life areas, which generally you can't properly measure in a quantifiable sense. And those areas at the moment are, I'm not quite sure what they really are, but I think three areas that are supporting life areas are generally behavior change. So how do you go about, well, changing your behavior and building new habits and properly implementing the lessons that you learn in your life into your life. And the second supporting life area is probably mental health, because I realized that really if I'm low in energy and feel bad about myself and can't get out of bed in the morning, then I also can't work at any of the main areas of my life. And then the third area I think is general principles, which is kind of a mental group that I need in order to properly store some things that are like very universal, that kind of apply to all areas of life. And one of the principles that I try to live by is to keep this knowledge structure as simple as possible. Okay, I think that's actually quite a good way to think about my life, really. I'm just realizing like thinking in this way is actually helping me quite a lot. And I mean, it is the way that I have, in a sense, been one that I have been kind of thinking about when I was properly learning, or when I was properly consuming the best information available out there. But I haven't really integrated this way of thinking into my day-to-day, everyday life. So yeah, this is really helpful for me. It is really helpful for me to talk about this. Okay, so that's the structure so far. And but I'm just realizing that there are new ways, and there might be an even bigger structure that I need to properly implement this. But I think I can just add one more thing on top of the goals. Mm, which is kind of a whole different level. But anyways, I don't really want to make this like when you think about life, I think that when you think about life on a really abstract level, but like basically on one level of abstraction beyond what I just talked about, then there's really two levels to life. The first one is how you do things, which is basically you want to do things, which is basically for me presence, and presence basically is what like this state of being that Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about in his talks and books. And so really on a very abstract level, there's like life really is presence and purpose. And I think the way you can describe presence is arguably like the proper way of doing things. Or like if you think about it, oh my God, I can't explain this properly. Um, because it's like there are different ways to explain the two levels of life that I am thinking of right now. But basically, one way to explain these two levels is to think about them as presence and purpose. And then you can think of presence as the proper way to do things and purpose as the proper things to do. And then you can also think about these two things as the proper way. Now, basically, without a value judgment, it's like how you do things and the things you do. I think that's the proper way to think about it. So it's like, how do you do things and what do you do? And it's like you want to do things with presence, and then it's like the proper way to do things is with presence, and the proper things to do are the things that give you purpose. I think that's the best way to put it. I mean, this probably doesn't make any sense when you listen to it on camera, but it's like, that's a good way for me to fucking put it. And I don't think anyone is watching this anyways. So that's that. So that's really on a very abstract way. That's how you can think about life if you really want to keep it in the most simple way possible. But interestingly enough, that's not how I think about what I actually would do day by day. Like the way I would actually think about the way that I would actually think about what I do day by day is that there's basically presence as like kind of as a transcendent area of life. that kind of transcends everything else I do. So I try to do everything that I do with presence. And then I have my goals, which generally give me the direction of what to do. And then I have my different life areas with the main life areas and the supporting life areas. Okay. So really, I think like the way I can really think about it is as presence, goals, and life areas. Okay, so I have properly implemented presence. And then one of the main questions for that I kind of have struggled with really for the past 8 years is that I'm just realizing that I think this really is the way to think that can make my life better, and that this way of thinking, it feels like it was within me literally for the last 8 years, and that I haven't properly articulated it, and that I haven't properly articulated it until right now, and that I haven't proper and that the reason why my life that a big reason why my life sucked so much over the past 8 years. And it's not really that it sucked. I think when you look at it from the outside, it's actually pretty comfortable. But it's like the reason why I stayed so far behind my potential for the last 8 years is because I kind of subconsciously knew that this way of thinking that I described right now was the proper way to think about life for me, but I didn't implement it. I didn't live my life like that. So yeah. Okay. Now, how do you implement new knowledge into this system? And this is kind of what really has been, I think, what the problem that I couldn't quite figure out in the past, because I tend to either make it too complicated or too um, too inefficient. Okay, so generally, if I keep it simple but somewhat inefficient, then then there are still problems that occur with this. But generally speaking, okay. So in regards to how to learn new things, or how to learn new things in my life, because school is such a strange system, there are really two kinds of learning. There is the kind of learning that is the learning you do for school, which has absolutely nothing, and which I think has absolutely nothing to do with the learning that is, getting new information and then implementing that information into your life and into your actions. This is completely fucking different than the learning knowledge and then regurgitating it that you get in school. But anyways, the thing that I'm talking about right now is kind of implementing when I talk. The thing that I mean right now when I talk about learning is implementing new knowledge into the way that you act in the world. So basically, it's really just changing the way that you act in the world. And you can cut out the in the world. So it's really changing the way that you act based on new information. And the way that I very imperfectly tried to do this was basically the following system. And there's so many things that could be improved by it. So okay, I will try to list all the problems with my current learning system, and then I will try to at least solve one of them. So the problems that I have with my learning system are, number one, I don't know how to properly implement it into this mental picture of the world that I just described to you with like presence, goals, and areas of life. That's the first problem. The second problem is that the system of learning that I will describe to you in a second is actually quite an inefficient one. But it is a simple one. It is simple but inefficient. And then the problems with this simple system are that it doesn't properly account for all the different sources of information. And so what I'm going to try to do right now in the next few minutes before ending this video is to explain the system to you very quickly and then try to properly put it into the different areas of life. And I think that's okay, that's actually quite easy. So basically, the way that I thought about it for very long, which is an imperfect way, but a simple way that actually does click very well into my view of into the system that I described to you, into the system of thought that I described to you. It is basically that I consume new information, for example, YouTube videos or books. Those are really kind of, or maybe some podcasts. And then I consume the information. While watching the video or reading the book, I take notes in a notebook. And those are basically just like linear notes. So basically, in the beginning, when I did this, it was more like my own thoughts. Nowadays, in the rare occasions where I even do this, it is just basically mostly quotes from the things that I consume. But anyways, that's irrelevant. So basically, I was consuming new information from books or social media, and then while watching these things, I would make notes in my notebooks, and then I would try to implement the information based in the order in which it was written down in the notebooks. And then I would also have like different notebooks again for different areas of life. But generally, the way that I would try to go about